tacos and
I'll
different
be like,
things.
yeah, we're thinking Scotty's, and I do want to shout out to Scotty's Ale House and Eatery. Thanks for them. And to to Campbell Haynes Menswear. They're one of our sponsors, and to the Verve Salon. So check out all those guys, shop local, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, awesome.
But, yeah, what kind of beer are you drinking?
So this is a cherry.
We got the same thing, didn't we?
Did we get the same thing?
Yeah.
Oh, it's good. It's good stuff. I always like the sour beers.
It's funny because it's called a stout, but it's and that used to be see-through stouts.
Yeah.
It's a very tasty beer, though.
It's good.
It's like it's the sour, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's cool.
Good. Yeah. So thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Chatting some art with me.
Well, yeah. I was gonna ask you, like, what's it like to have like people see your work out there, and do you ever like see anybody seeing your work?
Yeah. Well, it is actually kind of neat to see that because a lot of times I'll be in the middle of something, like I'll be at Chalk Fest and I'll be drawing, and people will be standing there watching, me draw, and they'll ask me questions, or I'll see people staring at some of the murals, and it's fun just to watch them ponder it. I know there's one of the murals that I did downtown where people, they don't understand what it is, so they'll sit there and they'll keep looking and looking, and I've heard people go, "Oh, it's a cow. Oh, no, I see a boat," and it's funny with what people interpret when they look at it. So. Oh
wow, that's interesting. Because because actually I think I first heard of you because of the mural that you had at Daly's.
Yeah, that was one of my first ones that I did at that scale of a mural. I think I painted that one back in 2018, I think, and that one lived for 2 years, and then it changed owners. It ended up getting mostly painted over, unfortunately.
That's a bummer, man.
So I think a new owner came in, and they just thought that mural was just too Daly's. It was just very Daly's style, so they wanted something a little different. So, but what they did do is they hung up picture frames, and they kept certain parts of the mural, which was nice.
Oh, interesting.
So, yeah, I was happy that they kept some of it, but yeah, that one.
Well, what's it like to hear your painting's going to be painted over?
Well, actually, so yeah, I didn't really even know. I just went in there one day to take a peek at it, and it was kind of like, wow, I didn't expect that. So I kind of just stood there for a minute, and I was looking at it, and then one of the owners, I think, came over and just asked me some questions. I said, oh yeah, I had painted the mural there, and then I think they just started explaining the situation. So
it must have been a little shocking though to like come in and just.
Because that one, it was.
You didn't get any warning.
I didn't know.
You just come in, you're like,
really
hey.
Any warning? No.
Hey.
And it was only 2 years old, and it was one of my favorites because I added a lot of texture and I took a lot of time on it. But
there was a lot of texture.
Yeah.
Wasn't there like something hidden in it?
There were all sorts of people saw all sorts of things in it. So that was again one of those murals where people are like, I see an elephant or I see a bird, and like I didn't mean to paint that, but
I remember staring at it for a long time one time at Daly's because I don't know if people might not even know this anymore, but I actually started my podcast in the back of Daly's.
Did you really?
Yeah, I used to call it Live at Daly's. So the first 10 or 11 episodes took place at Daly's, and I didn't really I tried to YouTube a couple times, but I didn't really have the equipment for it. And I learned very quickly that video is a lot harder than audio.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, he would let me. I would go in his back room, and it was kind of funny because he would always come in like about halfway through every podcast and make some commentary. It was kind of like the running thing.
Jim was a great guy.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this one, fair warning, the lights I think are motion censored, so they might go off and I'll have to stand up.
Okay, no problem.
That's become the ongoing joke for this one. I say, oh, we've been canceled.
Oh, it's over. Yeah, so that was.
But I remember staring at that one because someone said, I can't remember what it was, but there was supposed to be a thing you could see, or you were supposed to. Do you remember?
Yeah, you know what? I think I actually did hide the word love in there.
That's what it was.
Yes.
Yeah.
So a lot of my murals, actually, most of them will have the word love hidden somewhere, and then the animals and the creatures that everybody sees, those are just happy accidents. So
gotcha.
Yeah, so love was hidden in that one, and then there was one at Patron restaurant, and if you've been there, that one had like 5 different words hidden in it, like love, I think acceptance, or I don't even remember. I should have written it down, but there's all sorts of stuff you can find in that mural. So
how do you when what was it like making that transition from painting on a canvas to painting on a mural? I mean, when you have such a large scale.
Yeah, well, so when I went to school, I actually went for graphic design. So I learned a lot of like computer and Photoshop and all that skills. And I tried out painting larger murals a little bit then. I did some of the backdrops for the plays. And at that point, I kind of learned that, I mean, painting murals was pretty quick for me. I just kind of go and it gets done. But I had not painted on like a building, like on a brick building where it's, it's permanent, until I think it was 2017 that I did my first brick building painting, and that was for the Art Lives Here competition. And so it was a 2-day thing, and a bunch of artists were pulled in to do murals all throughout the River District, and it was a competition. So we had like 2 days to get our plans done, and I ended up painting mine in 5 hours.
Wow.
And I kind of surprised myself because I was like, wow, I thought this would take a lot longer than it did. But I think I have everything pre-planned. I planned it out in Photoshop. I have the grid on it. I just have all my colors and everything ready, and then I just go. And so it was surprisingly easy for me to paint that, and then from there I just kept going with more and more murals. I think I've done probably about 16 outdoor murals now in Wausau, and then another 20 indoor ones in the last few years. So yeah.
That's like in a 3-year time or so.
Yeah, I started my business in 2016, so the very end of 2016. So yeah, it's just been a couple of years.
What is is it just art in general, or do you specialize in murals?
So I can never. I know everybody tells me like I should specialize in one thing or another.
So you don't have a good elevator pitch.
I'm like, I can't decide. I love to do murals. I love to do smaller paintings. Because of my graphic design background, I love to do photography and logos and web design and.
So you do all of it.
I do all of that, yeah. And I think too, it really helps when you're creating murals to have that design background, because then you can plan it all out. And you can grid it, and you can know exactly the size and how things will fit, and then you can even Photoshop it on the building so you can see what it looks like beforehand. So I don't know, I just love it all. I think maybe mural painting may be my favorite thing right now, but I do all sorts of creative things.
Well, that's really interesting, because I feel like a lot of people, like, I don't know, maybe that's just my perception, but I feel like a lot of people kind of go toward one area, like their graphic design, and they mostly stick with that, or they're painting.
Most people do,
But it seems like a really interesting thing to be able to mix together.
Yeah, and also this past year I got into jewelry making a lot too, and so I do moonstone jewelry and all sorts of stuff, and
yeah, so you made that one.
Yeah, so I made this one.
You should show that to the camera.
I'm sure I'll give a close-up shot of that. Yeah. So
there
here that is.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's got a little moonstone inside, and then it's made out of resin. So I think with me personally, like I love to play with all different materials. I mean, I even do clay and different things like that. So in drawing with pen and ink, I'll do that too. So you
started in 2016. You started your business, and
2016.
How did you start it, and like what was some of the first things you did? Like,
well, so initially I was a graphic designer. I worked at East Bay for 6 years, and then I had actually worked at a photo studio for I think 11 years.
Wow.
So I was doing both at the same time, and then so I got a lot of experience with that. And then I had a baby, and my husband and I decided that it would be best for me to just be a stay-home mom for a while and do daycare and see how that goes, just until my little one got older. So I did daycare for a while, and these creative urges, like they just kept hitting me, and I thought, wow, I really want to do more. I want to paint. I want to do photography. I want to do more creative stuff. So then I just decided that I'm going to start my business. So I created a logo. I made my Facebook page. Made a website, and then just started, advertising and telling friends that I can do this stuff. So.
And did you focus on one thing initially, or did you just kind of throw everything?
Yeah, actually, I think I focused on photography when I first started.
Okay.
Because I had a lot of experience with that from working at the photo studio. I thought, well, I can do my own photography on the side for an extra income. So I really pushed that more. But then I just started dabbling in painting, and 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 I would post everything on my social media, and then people would start contacting me for orders, and then it kind of went from there. So
Interesting. So you started like, it sounds like you used the social media to really generate a lot of interest.
Oh yeah, social media.
Very visual.
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry.
No problem.
worries.
I have to I'm gonna have to
Oh,
make
okay.
a couple of trips, so.
You can cut through. Yep. No
Take
problem.
breaks. It's all good.
It's all good.
Hey, everybody.
Say hi. Courtesy of
The ultimate bomb.
Yes,
The podcast bomb.
Brad.
That's Brad Ballard, by the way, famous musician and beer maker.
Yeah.
Speaking of Renaissance folks, they do it all.
Yeah. So, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it sounds like a really interesting way to get into it. Did things pick up pretty quickly, or was it kind of a slow?
Oh, like incredibly quickly. I mean, I really didn't know what to expect. I thought, well, I'm going to keep doing daycare for a while and then, do a few things here and there for side jobs. But I was surprised at how fast people started contacting me, and my name was getting out there, and, I would do one piece for somebody, and then they would tell their friends, and they'd contact me. And then it was probably about, I think it was the spring of 2017, a couple different things happened, and I ended up going to this seminar and watching this woman speak about mural work that she was involved in Philadelphia, and that actually sparked the Rise Up that we started later that year. So then after getting into Rise Up and building that up, then even more projects kept coming in, and Rise Up too, as you know, has been just an amazing thing for this community, and it's just keeps growing and expanding, and we just got a hub for it here at Whitewater Music Hall, so it's been amazing.
How did you get your start in arts? Like when did that spark happen?
You know what, I think I was born this way.
Really?
Ever since I was a little kid, I would always draw and I would doodle. I always knew I would be an artist. It wasn't even a question. So I just, as long as I can remember, I've been painting, drawing, doing the arts.
Did you grow up hearing the mantra of the starving artist and all?
Yeah. I actually, a lot of people told me when I was growing up that it's great that I could paint and draw and be an artist, but I would have to get a real job. I would have to, do something more. And I think that's what pushed me into graphic design, because I thought, well, if I got a graphic design degree, then at least I could get in with the marketing team, and I could make better money than if I were to try to just be an artist.
Right.
Dad and my family actually didn't have a lot of money, so going to an art school wasn't really an option, and it was kind of one of those things where I just thought,
Sorry.
It's okay. I just thought, I couldn't be an artist. So that actually, people have asked me too if going into graphic design instead of going into an art school, if that's the decision that I regret, or if I think it helped. But I'm actually so thankful that I did that, because I think having that graphic design background has really helped me create these pieces of art, and especially with Rise Up. All the murals that have gone up these past few years, I got to be the design artist for them. So I would listen to the ideas that were coming from the group, and I would put them together into different mock-ups, and then people would choose the mock-ups that they liked. And then I got to be the one to break it all down into the sections so that it all could be painted. So had I not had that degree and learned graphic design, I wouldn't have been able to do that.
Do you feel like that informs your painting style too?
Yeah, actually I do. Yeah, a lot of the work that I do is pretty planned out, and it's I Photoshop it first, so I'll see what it's gonna look like. I always want to see the end result. Sometimes I will do a painting on intuition where I just let it happen. But most of the time I have a plan, and I have reference images, I have mock-up, and then I go from there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And we're at Whitewater, and you have a lot of your work displayed here. It's pretty cool to have a place that displays a lot of art.
Oh my gosh, I'm so thankful for Whitewater, because they not only are they just a really cool place to come hang out, but they're so good to the artists, where they'll let us display any of our pieces. They don't take a commission or anything. They just want to showcase some of the art and the artists in the area. So they've been amazing. I've got to have pieces here, and
it's really become like a hub for art and for music and for podcasts.
Yeah. it's been great.
I mean, it's pretty cool that they've had like this attitude of, because I kind of wondered when they first started, like I thought, well, you know, a business model for a music hall that can be kind of a tough go of it. I didn't realize they were going. I don't think maybe they didn't even realize their full vision of like really making this into a hub for the community and for, you know, their attitude has pretty much been yes from day one. Like, you want to do it here, cool, let's find a way to do it.
Right, and they have so many diverse people coming in and so many different shows and musicians. It's amazing what they've accomplished here in such a short time.
Yeah.
They've really turned this place around and given it new life in a way.
Yeah, it's just amazing to see like the artists and the musicians that have come through here. I mean, it's just like if you want to get involved in that scene, like this is kind of the place to start hanging out.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, what artists inspired you? Because I've always been like, I'm a big fan of Hopper. There's something about his work that really speaks to me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I wonder like what art you liked growing up and how that's changed over time.
Well, you know, I like anything. I'm really big on colors and just like different brush strokes and pieces of color that come together and form a picture. And I really like a lot of Monet's work. I've seen so many of his large pieces, and it's just incredible because from far away they're just, you know, they're beautiful, colorful scenes, but when you get close you can see just all the exact brush strokes he's made. And so a lot of my pieces, I've got that in my mind that I want to make art where you can really see that it's paint, you know, it's color and it's paint.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think I commented when I ran into you at the COVID event. What was that called again? Drew blanked on it.
Yeah, me too.
But you had a painting out, and I remember like looking at it from afar, and it looks like a solid floating piece, and then you get up close and you can see all the brush strokes.
All the little pieces.
You know, I did notice that because I was in Vancouver, and the art museum in Vancouver, when I happened to be there, had a Monet exhibit. So
did it? Oh, that's amazing.
And I always liked Monet too. I'm not like, I'm certainly not an art. You know, I don't know a ton about art. But my sister went to art school. I first tried music school.
Oh, did
then
you?
Came back for English because I was like, I'll take the major where I can just read books. Thank you.
Yeah, well, English is good.
It was good. Kind of helped me out, but. But yeah, I mean, Monet is one that I always kind of connected with, and it was fun. It was really fun to see it, and then, you know, read the captions and kind of learn a little bit about where he was when he was.
Yeah, and I like
each of them.
too. Like a lot of his pieces were inspired by nature and gardens, and gardening is huge for me. I love it. I made my whole backyard into this big garden.
Wow.
I have all these like flowers and different things, and I think that it's important as an artist because a lot of times. Like life for me is very chaotic, and I need a space where I can go and just be calm, you know, in nature, and having a garden space is just, it's amazing. Like I can get like re-energized in it. So I have all that I go to in the backyard, and that just helps me then be better with painting. I think it gives me inspiration. And
that inspired the hummingbird series?
So the hummingbirds, actually I painted, I think I painted
cool,
10 of these paintings, and I was inspired because one morning, the strangest thing, I get up out of bed and I go right to the window, and I don't know why I did that, and I opened the curtain, and there right outside the window was a hummingbird just hovering there staring at me, and I was like, this is weird. I don't usually, and it was the first one I saw of the season, so like that was beautiful. So then I got inspiration, like I gotta paint hummingbirds, and I painted one, and I just intended on keeping it, putting it up in my house, but then I had quite a few people message me, and they're like, well, how much for that hummingbird? And I thought, well, okay.
I guess I gotta make more of these.
Yeah, so then I painted a batch more of them and sold most of them, and I'm like, okay, I'm done painting hummingbirds for a while. On to something else. But yeah, totally inspired by nature.
Nice. Was there a point where you became more or less comfortable with selling your work, or what was it like to cross that threshold?
Yeah.
So I've heard that's sort of
so-
a sticking point for some people, and
Yeah.
I know for photography, it took me a while to like really convince myself that I could charge somebody for my work.
Yeah, that was hard for me because actually, and it's still kind of hard for me. I notice like a lot of people tell me, oh, your prices are so low, like you need to, charge more for that painting. But I think to me a lot of it, I do it fast. Like to me, if it's a fast painting, then I feel like, well, I can charge a lower price for it because it didn't take me a lot of time. Whereas other artists, they will spend hours and hours and hours on a piece, and to them and to other people, like that's way more valuable because they spent all that time on it. And me, when I have little kids and I'm busy all the time, everything, so I just quickly do something that I think, oh, I'll just charge a little bit and sell it. And after so many people tell me no, the original artworks, you have to sell them for a little more. So, and it's one of those things I have to ask my husband, or I have to ask other people, like, what would you pay for this painting? Because I don't know.
It's hard. Price setting is really hard.
Yeah, it really it's so
isn't
different.
Anything. It's weird. Like you don't think about it until you have to do it, and it's like, oh gosh, I don't even know. Like, I started a like a local newsletter, and I started charging, and like.
Well, the Wausonian, right?
Yeah. It's funny because when people sign up, I almost feel like a little guilty.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like I did anything, but I did do something. It was all in the
Yeah.
background, right? Like,
right.
and like same thing with an artist, like someone sees the painting, but they're not seeing all it's like the tip of the iceberg, all the work that went into building a craft. That's all behind that too.
And yeah, a lot of times too, I thought, well, I've done this for years and years. Like, I mean, since I was a child, I've been painting and playing with art. So really, it's a lifetime of experience that goes into each piece I create, and that's valuable.
In fact, I think it was Pablo Picasso who said someone he did a drawing and it took him, and someone he didn't say, but someone asked him like, how long did that take you? And he said, well, a lifetime.
Yeah, right. So I mean, I should probably start telling people, yes, it takes a lot longer than you think, but so it's been interesting. I'm still evolving as an artist and selling pieces.
It's really hard to know until you just sell your work,
Right. You just have to get out there and do it.
Because even people saying like, oh, I'd pay X number of dollars for that, like they might say that, but that doesn't mean they actually will. Like.
Right, then you wonder, are they just trying to make me feel good?
I've had people tell me, oh, that's too much, no one's gonna pay that. But then they do, so like you really don't know. This is something I got from some of the entrepreneur podcasts I listen to, but it's like you really just have to, you just really don't know until you put it out there. So do small experiments, set a price, and see if someone buys it, and if they don't, maybe it's too high.
Right, you can always change it later.
But definitely if you have people telling you they're undercharging you, that's probably a good sign that it's probably a good sign that you can raise the prices. People usually aren't willing to say, no, I want to pay more for that.
Actually, it's funny because quite a few of my paintings and even my photography, people will just give me extra as like a tip or whatever. So and I'm like, well, that's nice. So I'll figure it out more later, I think. But right now, I'm just so thankful to be able to do what I love every day, and I just I'll keep moving forward with it.
So how long have you been painting? Like
so, well, like I said, I painted as a child, and I mean just kid paint stuff. But professionally, I didn't start really until I'd say probably when I started my business in 2017.
Oh, really?
2016 I actually probably started getting back into painting, because before that I just focused on graphic design and photography for a good 10 years actually.
Wow. Really
just Photoshop and everything was what I did.
Did it come, I mean, I know a lot of work would have went into it, but did it come kind of naturally because of your background in graphic design?
Kind of. I remember, I'll tell you a really weird story. So when I started my business in 2016, and actually by 2017 I had painted a couple murals and a couple other pieces, and it was right around Christmas time, somebody had contacted me, and they saw some of the murals I did, they loved my work, and then they wanted to commission me to do a painting for them to give to his wife for Christmas. And I thought, oh, this is great. And then I asked him, what would you like me to paint? He said, oh, paint anything. So I went on, I found different images, and for whatever reason, I'm like, I'm gonna paint this warrior woman. So it's like a portrait of a woman. She's got like a little feather and different, markings on her. And so I painted that, and it was fun because I was playing with color and whatnot. And then I gave it to the husband, and he loved it. And then it was a few days after Christmas, I got a call from the wife, and she hated the painting. She couldn't believe that I painted that, and she said, like, this isn't all like my style. And at that point, like, I was still developing my style and playing and with different mediums. And so then she ended up demanding that she get her money back. And granted, it was $200. It was, which, it's a good amount of money, but I felt so bad because it was right after Christmas. So I ended up meeting them, and I had to get the painting back, and I gave them their $200 back. And at that point, I was like, gosh, I must be a pretty terrible artist.
I was gonna say that's like a pretty rough.
That's probably
first experience
the
with
worst
painting.
thing you could do. And that was one that I just, it was, to me, I just thought it was creative. It was fun. It just, I don't know. It was really kind of a blow to me, and I started thinking like, wow, like maybe I shouldn't be a painter. Maybe I should focus on other things. But then for whatever reason, I got this like determination. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna try to be one of the best painters. I'm just gonna keep practicing and becoming better and better at what I do and learning things and Googling. So I've got this plan now, which I'm 4 years into it, where every year I will repaint that painting. I'll look at the same image, and going off of all the things I've learned over the year and the different styles and things, I'll repaint it. So right now I've got 4 of them. Wow. And my plan is that after 11 years, because 11's my lucky number, of course.
Gotcha.
After 11 years, I'm going to have a series of 11 paintings, and then I'm going to tell the story of, what I've learned each year with painting and how the things that happened that year, and this and that. And the end painting, I'm hoping, is going to be really great. I mean, it's going to be like the best that I can do after this much time.
That's so interesting. That's a great idea.
Yeah. And it just kind of was one of those things where you take a hard situation and then you try to make the best of it. And I think to see the growth in an artist is really interesting.
Well, that's really interesting, because I always wonder like what some people have inside that allows them to take a blow like that. And that's really early, that's, like if you had that a couple of years down the road, you'd be like, all right, well, I've sold a bunch of other paintings and everyone loved them, so maybe this person's just crazy. But to get that like in the first thing that happens, I mean, I just wonder what inside you drives you to say, you know what, screw it, I want to keep going.
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of tears that went in before.
I bet.
That was a hard situation, but I think overall, my whole life motto is I really feel like anything is possible. Like whatever you can dream up, you can accomplish it. And this whole idea of, thoughts become things. And if I want to be a really great artist, if I want to sell a lot of paintings, I can. I just have to work. I got to put the effort into it. I can become better. I mean, I'm not always going to be, an amateur artist or whatever. I can work at it and I can grow. And same with any situation in life. I mean, you can get kicked down and you can stay down, or you can make the decision to, turn it around and keep trying. I mean, sometimes you're going to get kicked down multiple times, but I really think it's the way your perspective on the situation. And I'm such a believer in just positive thinking and keep moving forward and growing.
So what is I'm curious, like what each of these 4 paintings look like.
Yeah,
I mean, do you look back and go, oh my god, there's like,
oh yeah,
because I see
I've already
Facebook does that thing where they pop up your old stuff, and I see some of my stuff from when I first started shooting, and I'm like, oh god,
wow, I thought that was good, like, oh my gosh.
I was like, oh, I wouldn't even post, I would be embarrassed to post that now. I would have done this and this and this. Like, you didn't hear of color balance back then, did you?
Yeah. Right. Yeah, actually, I have looked back at them because I keep them in my office or in my basement at home. I did let one go on display for a little bit, but I want to kind of keep them to myself.
It's really just for you.
Yeah, it's for me to see it until they're ready, till the whole thing is ready. Then I will, hang them all up here or have an exhibit or something. But I have looked back and I thought, wow, you know, I learned not to mix those two colors like that because that gets really muddy. And some of the earlier paintings too, I was adding a lot of little, like, I'd add beads and things onto it, and it'd be very, like, I don't know, kind of multimedia-esque. And now I'm kind of like, well, if I'm doing a portrait, I'd rather just keep it all paint. So, and then I went through a wood phase where I was just painting on lots of, like, panel boards and wood, so it has a wood texture, so that's one of them. Yeah, so I think every year as I start to explore more and learn more, they're going to change. I have no idea what the final one will look like, so I'm just going to wait to see what I go through in life, see what I feel that year of the final one. So
what was the next thing you did after that? I'm really curious.
So after
this
the
the
blow,
painting
or
debacle,
So she gave it back to me. I got my money back. I felt sad, and then I, started feeling like, oh, I'm gonna be better. And then I think I just started painting a lot more. I started really picking up the murals and painting whenever I could. For a while, I was just contacting people like, would you like a mural? Would you like a mural? And a lot of times it was bringing in more. So it was just a lot more working at being better. And I watch a lot of YouTube videos and tutorials, so I've learned a lot that way. And I took a class with David Hummer. So oh my gosh, he's amazing. So he taught me a lot with oil paintings and how to really, when you're painting something, it's not so much you're trying to paint a face, you're trying to paint a portrait. It's more the colors you're using, the colors that are next to each other, and then the brush strokes that you make. And that's what makes a painting interesting.
Yeah,
so.
he's like a master. He's like Wausau's Yoda.
He is.
It's crazy.
So I mean, in his museum, the things he's accomplished is.
I'm still blown away by him explaining that sunlight is blue.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
I was like, dude, you're out of your fucking mind. There's no way it's blue. And then he goes, look it. He isolates the color. I'm like, oh dang it.
Right? Isn't it weird? Yeah, he had these little cards and he'd punch a hole in it, and you could put it up to anything, and then you see the true color when you isolate the other colors around it. So that's a huge thing that I learned is the colors will change depending on what's around it completely. So a color you wouldn't think would be, in a skin tone, it is like light blue or purples, and it's incredible the way he teaches you to change your thinking. And even one tip he suggested is, if you're painting a portrait, paint it upside down, because when you're looking at it right side up, your brain is telling you, the eyes should be here, it should look like this. But when it's upside down, it kind of tricks your brain, and you're more or less looking at shapes and colors versus the portrait as a whole.
That's
and
really
that helps a lot.
That's really interesting, because I know one of the techniques they teach you in journalism and proofreading is to read from the bottom and go up.
Oh, do they?
Because
okay,
then
that makes sense.
Then you focus on, instead of like your mind trying to fill in the gaps.
Yeah,
like if there's a missing word and your brain skips over it, going back the other way will actually, it makes you focus on each word, and then you see the errors where you might not the other way.
Yeah, right.
I can't say I do that all the time because it's really laborious.
Yeah.
Like you really want to get it right and make sure. That's a good way to do it. So I wonder if it's a similar process. Yeah.
Just trying to change the way you've been programmed to think for a little bit.
But what was it like your first paid work after that incident? Like were you super nervous?
Yeah, it did knock me down for a while, and I think I even I went really low on my prices for a while. I mean, I was doing photography, even like I just kind of really knocked my confidence. So I did photography for like $15 for a 30-minute session, and which is like you're not even making anything at that point. And,
oh wow, that's like more than I did when I first started.
Oh yeah, it was kind of ridiculous. So my husband's like, "What are you doing? Like you might as well not even do it if you're gonna charge so little." So yeah, I did that for a little bit, but then I started feeling better. The more I painted, and the more I think too, I posted it all over social media, and then the people who supported me were just really great. They're like, that painting's great, it's awesome, I'll buy it. So that boosts up your confidence a little more.
That's awesome.
So,
yeah, I know, like charging, it's like, one of the things I found is I feel like charging more tends to bring out a better clientele.
Yeah, because they value the piece more, I think. Yeah, definitely have noticed that too.
Like it was kind of a surprise. I feel like in a way I almost got more work by raising my prices.
Yeah.
Which was sort of counterintuitive. First you think, well, there's so many photographers out there, probably a bunch of them are better than me. I'll charge less in price, and that will bring
Yeah.
people in. But
That's what I thought.
I know Butch and Kelsey, like McCartney's, if you know them.
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. I know Butch told me, he's like, hey, whatever you set your price, that's what you're worth. So
That's so
choose
true.
carefully.
Yeah, for sure. And I think too, some of it was not having the confidence. So I would keep my prices low with photography because I thought, well, then if I don't do the best job, then at least they weren't expecting, these photos to be
Right.
really great. So I did that for a while too.
And yeah, you came from you had a professional background in photography.
Yeah. Well, so I worked at a photography studio, but I was actually the design artist.
Okay.
So my boss, his name was Doug. He did most of the photography. I helped out a little bit, but he did most of the photography, and then I would he gave me the raw photos, and I would make them look better. So I would do all the editing and the Photoshop with
Gotcha.
them. So that was really what I had the most experience in. So.
Yeah, that's the way to go. Get someone to edit for you.
Yeah, and I loved it. I preferred editing over photography.
Actually, I kind of enjoy it, but yeah, it is like I've always heard it said, and it's not quite that for me, but I've always heard it said it's like twice as much time editing as the taking the photos.
Yeah, usually,
Not
but
more.
because I've been doing Photoshop since 2007.
But you're zippity zip.
Zippity zip. I mean, I have all the shortcuts already down, so I
Nice.
go through it really quick, and I've actually set up all these different. I don't know if you're familiar with Photoshop and actions. So I have all
Yeah,
these different
nice.
actions I would push, and it would just turn the photo into.
Well, that's a good idea.
Yeah, it would be
Yeah.
way faster. So I think I've always tried to find ways to be faster. Like, how can I get more done in less time? And being a
That's
mom
smart.
of 3 kids, I have to. I've only got so much time to do the creative stuff, and then I have to take care of the kids and do the chores and all that.
Yeah, I really should learn more about Lightroom. I mostly
Yeah.
use, or excuse me, about Photoshop. I mostly
Photoshop
use
and Lightroom.
I mostly use Lightroom
Oh, okay.
almost exclusively, but yeah, Photoshop has some pretty interesting stuff that you can't do in Lightroom.
Right. Yeah.
And mostly, since most of my photography is news based, Lightroom is kind of like the safe. I'm not
Yeah,
photo
it works.
manipulating,
Right.
because it's pretty unethical to manipulate your photos if you're
Oh,
a
right.
news photographer. So
Yep.
Lightroom is you really can't do anything that theoretically you couldn't do in a dark
Right.
room.
So you wouldn't. Really
Even
have to
though,
use
let's be
Photoshop.
honest, you would need to do some of that stuff. You would need super high level
Yeah.
of skills to pull off what you can do
Well-
with a couple button clicks in
Yeah.
Lightroom. But it's
Yeah.
there's nothing you can do. I don't think that really crosses the manipulation
Right.
threshold.
Yeah, I think one of the main reasons I use Photoshop when I'm doing photography is a lot of times with photographing kids, you'll have them looking a different way, or their eyes will be closed or something. So I end up doing face swaps all the time in Photoshop, and it's just real easy to get in there with the layers and do the different manipulations on the faces. And a lot of times too, somebody will want their eyes open, or there's glass glare, or they're not smiling in one picture, so I'll do all that.
Well, I do want to get into Photoshop because there's so many artistic things that you can do with it, and really that's how you. Do you know Jen Hartman and Stevens Point?
Familiar, but I can't think of that.
Yeah, he's he teaches at national seminars.
Oh,
he's
wow.
a pretty hardcore.
In Stevens Point, huh?
And Stevens Point, yeah,
Oh.
and he has he has the Photoshop stuff down.
Nice.
The stuff he
yeah.
does is I don't know anyone that does it like him.
Cool, I'll have to check him
I've
out.
gotten a couple tips from him when I was starting out. I wish I could. Now I could really get some tips from him, because now I kind of know what I'm
No.
doing. Back
Yeah.
then it was well, what do I do with this setting?
Right?
And he's he was super nice about it, but yeah, he was doing a lot of stuff with light painting. I went to a seminar he put on
yeah.
in Point about light painting, which was pretty interesting stuff.
Very cool, yeah.
But he told me, because we talked about, he's yeah, everybody and their uncle has a camera now.
Mhm.
So if you want to stand out, you've got to really stand out.
Right, you gotta do all those little fine tweaks in the photography to make
Yeah.
it a little bit different
You
from what
got
you
you
typically
got
see.
you got to do the thing that Uncle Bob with his SLR that he bought off Amazon.
Oh.
Well, I got my new camera off Amazon, so I shouldn't knock Amazon. But
Yeah, well, yeah.
I went full frame Sony digital
Oh, did you?
mirrorless. Yeah,
Nice.
finally got rid of the old Nikon. Well, I still have it, but the old Nikon was starting to have its wheels come off. So.
Yeah, time to upgrade.
Mhm. But it's cool. I got a job in September that will pretty much cover it and then some. So
Awesome. Where in September? Where you're?
yeah, shooting a wedding, which I generally
very
don't
cool.
do. I did one for my friend, and this one led to another job.
Okay, so once you
And-
start break into the wedding business, I'm sure you're gonna get, and once you have samples, you're gonna get more. Which the wedding
Well-
business is great for making. I mean, you can make a lot of money, but it is a lot of responsibility, and I think that's why I stay out of weddings as best as I can.
I tried it
because-
too. They reached out to me, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Well, you know, I've only done one wedding." They're like, "Yeah, that's a friend. You did it for our friend. We loved it." And so I met with them, and it's actually pretty cool. The guy who's running it is the guy who runs Logjam.
Oh, okay. Cool.
He's a younger guy. Well, his dad started it, and now he's kind of running it, and he's starting like a music venue in Wausome. Anyway, yeah, he so I came down. Actually, he showed me the space that they're working on. He does he has like not design, yeah, like design architecture kind of design. Yeah, see, we got canceled. Uncancelled. He showed me the space, and they have like kind of a cool wedding. Like they're gonna have, it's gonna be like the first thing in this space is gonna be their wedding.
Oh.
The first thing is they're gonna leave on the trolley and go through this trolley ride through
Oh, that's
like
fun.
Rochelle to Amherst and stop at a bunch of places like Central
Yeah.
Waters and that. And then they're gonna come back, have a really short ceremony outside, and then just sort of a party gathering thing.
Cool.
I was like, well, that sounds like fun. I'm
Yeah, you probably enjoy that one.
I kind of like I actually knocked some money off of what I was gonna charge them, because I'm like, this actually sounds like a good.
Yeah.
Cause they're not even having like, not the whole tux white dress thing. It's
Oh, it's more
more
casual.
casual.
Okay.
so I'm like, cool, I can get behind that.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
But that's the only
awesome.
reason I shot my friends. My other friends was like a 15-minute ceremony outside at the park.
Oh, okay.
And I
So
took them
real
around for
quick.
another 15 minutes. Like, yeah, let's do some couple photos while we're
Yeah.
here.
Not bad.
So that kind of
Yeah.
stuff's not bad, but
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, yeah, that is something good to get into. I mean, if you want to be.
otherwise, yeah, I very much share your feelings on.
Yeah.
And so I was almost gonna tell him no.
Yeah.
I was like, well, okay, he knows what I did before, and
Right.
it's
So
kind
he's
of-
seen your work, and he knows that your experience level, and he still wants to go. Then yeah, make it a go. And
Mhm.
I mean, it probably will lead to a lot more stuff for you. So it's
Well,
an
hopefully-
opportunity. You should
Yeah,
take
I
it.
was gonna say, yeah, I hope there's more people doing like his style of wedding. Like that sounds more fun for me. Or,
Yeah.
I don't even care if it's more formal, like dress and stuff. Just like I like that more relaxed style. I think that's kind of
Yeah,
cool. But
it just feels better, I think. Otherwise, it's more high stress on you if it's very, very formal. So, yeah.
so what do you think? What do you think about the whole NFT thing in the art world? Do you have any thoughts on that?
NFT.
Are you familiar with that?
No, actually, what is NFT?
So NFT stands
This
for.
is bad and I don't know it.
I guess I'm going to teach you something today.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But NFTs are they're called non-fungible tokens. So a lot of artists
I
are
don't know
doing.
what that is.
Yeah, so
What?
they're like kind of like a cryptocurrency blockchain thing, but it's basically like you can create a digital copy of your piece of art, or people are doing it with like baseball cards or basketball cards or things like that too, or Pokemon cards
Yeah.
or other stuff. But it's like a digital, almost like a signature. So you could say, okay, this is a Stephanie Kohli painting, and I have 10 tokens for this painting. So there's 10 digital copies for this painting, and so I can sell this painting, and you can buy the digital copy.
So it's just basically prints. You're just buying prints. Or you're
Kinda.
buying a print, like you're buying a digital file to make your own prints or whatever you want.
You're kind of buying the digital. You're kind of buying the token for the asset. So you're saying that I own a digital version of this, but it's a really specific digital version that only this one exists. I'm like doing a terrible
This is the first
job.
I've heard of this. This is
Wow.
weird. Wow.
I'm gonna open up a whole new
Yeah,
revenue stream for
this
you.
is kind of crazy. I'm
Because
gonna have to
it's
Google and
like
check
because
into this.
each one has an individual signature, so it can't be copied.
Oh.
And
Wait,
some people.
so each digital piece though is different? Like how did they make it different?
So it's like on the blockchain, so it's a digital signature, basically.
What?
So instead of having like
My
like,
mind is blown right now. Like
I know, like you're gonna have to go like.
artists are making money like off of this.
They're
off of
making.
this?
Oh my gosh! Like, do you know about people?
No. Somebody needs to help me because I'm like very old school.
So
Oh my
Beeple,
gosh.
Beeple is like a graphic design artist who, interestingly enough, he's from Fond du Lac, or he grew up in Fond du
Oh.
Lac.
Oh, okay.
But he started, he was doing like these designs like every day. He was posting, he did these daily designs, and he's like a really, almost Salvador Dali like, and kind of
Okay.
like that abstract sort of, I don't want to say grotesque, but like,
Wild kind of.
yeah, really Dali like, where it kind of like hits you. And he would do these every day, and then he started selling digital copies. But then he partnered with one of the big, I think Christie's auction house, and they sold a collection of his NFT, like the NFTs version of his digital work,
What?
and they sold for like millions.
What?
So like
Okay, I
like
need somebody to
56
help
million.
me. I need a manager or something.
Man, I
'cause-
gotta tell you, I looked into it
Oh.
a little bit. I don't know. It's a little
Wow.
bit complicated, but if you can
Yeah.
find someone who makes it work.
I should put a post out there on my social media. Help me learn how to do this because
So
I
here-
don't know.
So here's like the cool thing about it, like you sell the NFT, so you sell this like digital copy of it. And if someone, and you can kind of set, again, I don't know how this works, but
Yeah.
you basically set it up, and then if that person, so it's like a collectible. It's kind of, it's the collectible part of it.
But couldn't people
So-
just keep copying it though? Like why? How did they keep tabs on one digital file
Because it's on the blockchain.
on the
so it's-
blockchain? What's the is
So
the
that's the
blockchain's like
non,
the cloud?
so that's like the non-fungible part of it. Like
Oh.
you can't make more of them. You can't alter it. So like there's one copy, or you know, if you create 10 unique copies, that's like the 10 unique
But in
copies.
okay, so the blockchain is like almost like a cloud, right? Like a
Kind of.
untangible.
It's a digital. It's a.
Okay.
It's a.
So what
it's a
about
non,
actual prints though, like physical prints? I mean, you could always do that.
I mean, I guess you could. Yeah.
I don't. This
Yeah.
is mind blowing. I'll have to do more research on this because this is.
Yeah, you gotta look this
Interesting.
up. So here's the
Yeah.
cool part. You sell.
Huh.
You sell to person A, and if person A sells it to person B, you get a small cut of that sale. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool,
It
huh?
sounds incredible. Yeah.
I'm gonna be
Huh.
honest, like I'm trying to explain it the best I can, but I know
Well,
that this is still outside of my realm
yeah.
of
No, I'm
expertise.
gonna
But
look into that. That's really fascinating. Like, wow. I didn't even. I can't believe I've been living under a rock and never heard about it.
yeah,
At
you should go
least
look up
me.
Beeple's work. His stuff is pretty
Beeple,
interesting.
okay.
He lives in North Carolina now,
Yeah.
And
Well,
he's-
yeah.
he's
to
kind
make
of-
these millions.
and he's kind of a big guy in the. He's starting to become like a big guy in the art world. But I thought it was interesting that he's originally from. I don't think he was born in Fond du Lac, but I think he grew up in Fond du Lac.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, his work is pretty cool. I actually really like it.
Yeah. I'll have to check it out. Very cool.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you follow like the
Mm.
modern art scene, like
I
Banksy and things like that? I don't even know all the people.
Yeah, you know, I guess I don't a whole lot. I'm kind of because I juggle so much and because I'm a stay-at-home mom and
Yeah.
at least until my kids are in school, I'm kind of just going at my own pace. I'm trying to be careful not to take on too much, and I haven't really gone full force and started following too much of the outside. I just do on intuition and whatever I feel like doing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, for now. I mean, maybe eventually when I get more time, you know, I can
Yeah.
start following and doing
Yeah,
more,
for
more
sure.
stuff. But right
Well, you know, I asked David, and I was like, well, what, you know, if you were gonna like, I said, listen, like, I don't hear of an artist unless, I don't even hear of like these very famous artists unless you tell me about
yeah.
them. Basically, like, you know, his teacher, he brought her to town, and he brought some of these other ones, and I'm like, okay,
He brought Melissa Monks.
it was the monks, yeah.
Yes, so I took a class
Yeah.
with her, a painting class, and
Yeah, what was
she's
that like?
incredible. Wow, like, so it was, gosh, I think it was 3 days, and it was working on one painting, and she really wanted us as artists to slow down and to focus on just the color and the color changing and in the brush strokes, like really take your time. And it was hard, like, cause I am not used to slow. I wanted to rush through it, quick it done, but the painting,
Interesting.
I still have the painting. It turned out pretty good. I mean, it's different than most of the stuff I do because, you know, I really had to sit and plot out colors and take my time with it and try to smooth it out, but you couldn't smooth it. You had to just brush stroke. So I learned a lot. It was interesting. So
Yeah, I remember asking David like how to describe her coming to town. I was like, let me run this by you. Is this like Alex Rodriguez coming to work with the Woodchucks? And he's like, yeah, that's probably a good way to put it.
Yeah, she's amazing. Like her work is all over the internet. I mean, she's done TED Talks, and she's like her stuff is just everywhere in galleries, and yeah, she's very famous. To come here in Wausa is and to teach us.
His story about how he got connected with her is pretty interesting.
Which I actually don't know that story.
Yeah, he reached out to her and said, like, you know, he just, for some reason he felt compelled, like he had to get out of Wausa. He really wanted to. I hope I do the story justice. And he had been an admirer of her work, and he's like, I want to come out to paint. I want to come out and paint with you. Here's my portfolio, and I think she kind of ignored it for a while.
Yep, I did.
And then for some reason she like looked back on it and like looked through his work and was like, oh yeah, you can come out here.
Yeah, that's right. I remember him telling me that he had painted with her for a while out in New York, and that he learned a lot. They learned a lot from each other, and it was an amazing experience. So yeah, that was cool.
Stuff like that, I don't know, I think it's cool. Like,
yeah.
I like that collaboration and that like seeking out other people in your field, and
right. When you collaborate,
really excited about that.
Yeah, I agree. Like when two minds come together, really awesome things can happen. So I'm a big fan of David and all his work, and working with other people who are kind of on the same path.
So what's a piece that you're really excited to look back on, and what's a piece that you're really frustrated about?
So really excited. Well, I think I really liked when I got a call from Best Western Hotel, and they had contacted me, and they had wanted just one mural, and when I went in there and I looked at the space, and then I did some mock-ups and gave examples of what I could do, and they ended up hiring me to do 11 murals in a 1 month time frame. That was at first I thought, wow, like 11 murals in 1 month, and this was over the Christmas, like this was from mid-December to mid-January that they needed it done by. I wasn't sure that was even possible, but I moved forward with it, and I got done with those 11 murals like the day before they were due. So to me, like that was a huge accomplishment to be able to paint for a hotel, and especially one too that has been around for a really long time. Before, I think you know the history of Best Western, was the plaza before that, and so it's a real staple here in the community, and to do all that work for them was amazing. So I'm really proud of that. Like that turned out really well. It was a lot of pressure. Because even some of the days that I was working there was no heat, and it was in winter. It was freezing, so I had my snow pants and multiple clothes on, and my paint was freezing.
Wow.
So getting that done was amazing.
So that's gonna be interesting, because I was just thinking back to when you were talking about working with Alyssa, and you're talking about slowing down, but I gotta imagine speed is a benefit for you. And
yeah, speed is my thing. I think really I think sometimes when I go too slow, I start to overpaint something. I'll just go slow, and I'll keep adding more and more and more, and then I don't like it, and then I get frustrated, and I'm like, oh, why did I do that? Whereas when I know I have a very tight deadline, I have to get this done, and then I just go, it seems to turn out way better. So for some reason, pressure and speed and everything works better for my mural work. Hi!
Hello! We're putting on a show here tonight.
Yeah, no worries.
We'll be out of here in a second.
That's all good. Hopefully this is my last trip.
Yeah. I'm gonna think about one that was frustrating now. Ooh, look at that. I brought my little mural map.
Oh yeah, the mural.
Which ones were really hard?
Yeah, do you think it would be a mural?
Do I think what?
Do you think the frustrating one would be a mural, or do you think it would be a painting?
Yeah, I don't think
I guess that's painting too.
Most of my murals have been amazing. Like they've been fun. I love them.
Maybe you got the frustration out of the way with the warrior painting.
Yeah, the first warrior painting that was hard. Gosh, I gotta think here for a minute. No, actually, so some paintings I do, I paint a lot of people's dogs, especially around Christmas time. People always get dog portraits done, and I know particularly I've had a couple cases where I'll paint their dog, and to me it looks identical, like it looks just like their dog, but then they see their dog so differently, so then they'll want changes, like, well, you know, his nose isn't quite that big, or his eyes look funny, and so then it's a lot of revisions on these little paintings of animals, and
Gotcha.
also portraits of people. Like those are pretty hard because everybody's perspectives are different, you know,
Yeah,
people
we
see
don't-
themselves differently.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
portraits are probably something that are almost my least favorite if they're realistic portraits. Whereas if they're like colorful and abstract and fun portraits, that's totally different. Like I like doing that, but yeah, the realism in portraits is tough because you almost know going into it that the people are gonna have probably, you know, not gonna love it at first. Like there's
Yeah.
gonna be some tweaks to it and adjustments. So yeah.
It's gotta be hard, like with photography it's like, well, the camera took
Oh.
the, you know.
Yeah, right.
So-
the
so it's
camera
like they
takes the
can't-
picture. They right. You know it's true to
Yeah.
them, but they still like that doesn't look like that. I don't like that. You know that
Yeah.
angle or whatever. So yeah, portrait painting's even harder.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
So yeah, that's
How do you keep, especially when you're doing stuff like that, that might be more photorealistic and maybe not as creative? How do you keep
Yeah.
like your juices going, or how do you get
Oh.
excited about doing?
well. So I think it's really important to make sure I take the time to do stuff that I want to do. Because a lot of times right now, I mean, I have a whole bunch of commissions. I've got a ton of work, and you know that nags at me. I'm like, oh, I should be working on work stuff, but I'll have to take breaks, and I'll have to like, you know, whip out a hummingbird painting or do
Right.
something that I like. And I think that balances me so that I can do the stuff that's not so fun. And I take lots of breaks. Like if I notice that I start to get sloppy on something, then I'm like, okay, take a break, you know, come back to it later. Sometimes I have multiple paintings going at the same time, and that helps to jump around a little bit. Yeah.
Interesting.
So.
Are there any techniques that you aspire to that you can't do now? Or is there like a different kind of way to put that, where there's like a painting?
Yeah,
rule
like
that
some
you have?
things I would like to learn. Yeah, I think there's a lot of improvement I could do on realism. I think because sometimes I do really love to make a realistic face. I've painted a couple of Native American faces where I used oil paints, because normally I'm all acrylic. There's no way would you want to paint a mural in oil paints, that would
Yeah.
that would be outrageous. So then I have tried oil painting and trying to make something smooth and more realistic, and there's a lot of little tips and tricks that I'm not aware of that I think I could greatly improve on that. So, but then again, to me, I can't really commit to any particular style. I like everything, and I kind of like abstract a little bit more, and I like the expressionistic paint, and you know, having a face that's really colorful and sloppy is fun. But sometimes, you know, I'll get the request to do something realistic, and it's a bit of a challenge. I know I spend a lot more time on realism, and especially with oil paints, it takes forever.
Yeah, the abstract stuff is really interesting because I look at it and I think, how does the artist even think to like paint that? Like,
Yeah.
where does that come from?
So yeah, actually the mural I did here at Whitewater was a lot of it was just real abstracted, and they had a 3D piece there that was done by Mary Robinson, another artist, where they had that at the top of the stairs, and they told me, well, for this mural, you know, use this as a guide, so go off of this, but then do whatever you want.
So that excite you because it's kind of like a little
Yeah.
constraint / challenge.
Yeah, right. So I looked at it, and I knew they wanted like kind of something flowing and energy and water, and so then I kind of had an idea of the colors I'd use and the shapes, and then I think it went so fast because I just.
No, this is really awesome having you on today.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. This has been great to just talk about art with you.
Heck yeah. Cool. Any where should people, if people want to see your work, where should they go?
So I have a website. It's my name, so it's www.stephaniekohliart.com, and then you can find me all over social media. So I'm on Facebook, same name, and Instagram, which Instagram I actually just got on about a year and a half ago. So I'm still figuring it out. But
Well, art listener who just first got on Instagram. Come on. Now.
I know. My daughter, who's 16, has been pushing me. She's like, Mom, you gotta get on Instagram. I'm like, fine. I will.
Like still be TikTok and all that.
Yeah, haven't gone to TikTok yet, but
Have
I'm
to
sure I'll
like
be
hold
there
your panning
eventually.
up and do a dance or something. I don't even know how that works. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'll figure it out
Cool. Well,
eventually.
thanks for keeping on and for being on today. And
Yeah,
I always
thank you.
tell my guests keep it Wausome. So keep it Wausome.
Yes, keep it Wausome, everybody.
You guys keep it Wausome out there too, and we'll see you next time.
Alright, thank you. Alright, cool.
Yeah, that was
beans.
fun.
That was good. I think I was real red